It's a little terrifying because you absolutely cannot miss.
Goalies now are completely at a premium.
Not, right? Like, Canada doesn't have a ton of great options. Welcome to the big show, brought to you by True Hockey. I am Ryan Kennedy, joined as always by Michael Traikos, and joined frequently by Devan Dubnyk, former NHL goaltender and a panelist that we'd love to have on. So let's get right to it, guys. 4 teams in the NHL right now are all undefeated in regulation: Vegas, Seattle, Colorado, and Carolina. Devan, I will go to you first. Which of those 4 teams looks like the biggest threat right now?
Oh, that's a tough one to pick one of them. I mean, I think obviously 3 of the 4 you lean toward. No knock on Seattle, but one of these things is not like the other with that group in the long term. And for me, I'm always going to go to Colorado. I think that they're always fun to watch. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon looks like Nathan MacKinnon plus some, if that's possible. And Scott Wedgwood is doing a great job in that, and that's a great opportunity for him. It's why they brought him in there. Obviously, with the injuries, when Blackwood comes back and they're both healthy, he might just be earning himself some more playing time. And you never know at the end of the year where this could be a full-on option as to who's starting. Obviously, you want Blackwood to come back in and be the guy. But I think, with the acquisition of Wedgwood last year, and he did really well, this has just been a great opportunity for him to come in and show, hey, I can be a starting goalie. And maybe this is not just for now. Maybe I'm not just a 1B. Maybe I'm the guy. And whether that's for Colorado or down the road, he's doing a great job of seizing this opportunity. I mean, I've talked plenty of times on Gabe Landeskog's leadership and the difference that is a different hockey team with him in the locker room and on the ice. And it shows. I mean, it showed when he came back, when they won the Stanley Cup. The little bit last year, obviously, just the emotions and how everybody felt with his return. It's indescribable how he changes that team. And so if he's there, that they're a force.
Right on. Michael, I will open the floor to you. Yeah. Who is the biggest threat amongst those 4 for you?
Well, Devan went out west, so I'm going to go east, and I'm going to go Carolina, guys. And nothing really is going right for the Carolina Hurricanes, except for they are perfect right now. And when I say nothing's going right for them, they're missing Kochetkov, who's, I guess a tandem situation with Freddie Anderson, so they're relying on Brandon Bussi as their backup. No points for Nikolai Ehlers, their big acquisition in the summer. No points for Andrei Svechnikov, who is now relegated to 4th-line duty, which is just bonkers. And really, this is a team that's managing to pick up wins without 2 of their top guys producing offense. And Seth Jarvis has been outstanding for them. Obviously, I mentioned Brandon Bussi, but things get tough for the Hurricanes. Like, they beat the Devils, they beat the Flyers and the Sharks and the Ducks and the Kings, but they've got Vegas 2 times in the next week right now, and they also are going to be playing Colorado. So we're going to see a battle of the big dogs, Devan, the Avs against the Hurricanes very soon.
Yeah, and that's a good, it's good for a team to get through tough times like this when guys aren't performing and other guys stepping up. I think that, as much as they haven't gone Carolina's way with the wins that they have, that's a huge boost to the team. I think to have wins under your belt when you have some guys seriously underperforming, and you look at a guy like Ehlers, this brand new team. Sometimes it just takes guys a little bit to get going, and I think that's a guy who fits right into the way they play. I think he's going to be great there. And fortunately for him, this isn't a situation where they're going to him every day because, hey, we need you. We got to get you going. He's in a situation right now that he can kind of ease his way in. And then if those guys start producing and Svechnikov gets back to what we're used to seeing out of him, well, then look out. So I think it's a good job by everybody else, and cross your fingers for everyone that Freddie Anderson stays healthy, because they need another guy with his injury past. But when he's there, he's as good as anybody. So, good on the other guys for stepping up. And it's a good sign for Carolina for how good they can be going forward. You bring these other guys who are expected to be the leaders, Now they come and lead, and now you got a full roster of guys going.
There you go. Seth Jarvis making a push for that Canadian Olympic team. Let's talk about another team that's hot. Detroit has won 5 in a row. Are they for real? And let me set the table here. Detroit's penalty kill is like 93% right now. Cam Talbot has incredible stats. John Gibson has won 2 in a row after that tough first outing for him. So, Devan, I'll go to you first. Do you believe in these Red Wings?
Right now, I do. You got Dylan Larkin absolutely leading the way with absurd stats. I think he has 11 points in 6 games and plus 100 or whatever he is. But he's doing his thing as the captain, and that's what you need your captain to do. Going back to the goalies, I think this is what they want for Detroit. And they go out and they get John Gibson, and is John Gibson the answer? Is he going to be the guy? Does he need to be the guy? Or is this the guy that you went out and now you have your 1A, 1B or your 50-50 split or whatever that is? You have 2 really good goalies now who maybe they play a little better when they're sharing ice time. And maybe John Gibson doesn't need to be the guy that goes and plays 55 games for you. Cam Talbot's a good goalie, and he's shown that. Maybe his level of play goes up a little bit if they're splitting. Like this could be, I'm not going to compare it to a Swayman Allmark type situation, but look at how well those guys competed. So maybe that John Gibson acquisition, if it continues to go this way, now you got 2 guys, 2 options who are able to give you really good games and continue forward. And that kind of allows you to have that consistency. And then, you got your normal guys leading the way with Kane and Larkin and these guys. And then you got guys stepping up. I saw this young kid, Emmett Finney, 20 years old,
rounder.
and 20 years old, and he's got 5 points plus 7. That's the kind of things that you need to kind of take that next step as a group. You're always expecting your leaders and your guys to do it. Now you need some younger players to come in and start to find their role and chip in. And those are obviously the less expensive contracts for the salary cap. Those are the guys, if you're going to compete and be there, you need those guys to slide in. And we're starting to see that with Detroit.
Yeah, I'm with you, Devan. And Detroit's their whole thing in the past used to be, where can we find guys later in the draft? And they found like Thomas Holmstrom in the 10th round. Datsyuk was a 6th rounder. Obviously, Henrik Zetterberg was a 7th rounder. So, it looks like they're going back to that well again. Emmett Finney was a 7th round pick, and now he's playing on the top line with Dylan Larkin. And to Devan's point, looking very comfortable doing it. And the other guy I really like out of the gates is Moritz Seider. Like, he's not putting up flashy numbers, Ryan, but for once in his career, he's a plus player. And, that's a rarity for Moritz Seider. And it's not a knock on Seider. It's just a matter of, maybe they didn't have a goaltending before, and maybe they didn't have as complete a team. So I'm hoping that the Red Wings continue, because I'm dying to see a playoff game in Little Caesars.
Yeah, good point. They haven't hosted one yet. And I'm with you on Seider. I mean, this is a player that it feels like he's done more than should be expected of him in the past, even though, he is a legitimate top pairing guy, a legitimate number 1 based on his size, based on his 2-way game. But it always just felt like he didn't have enough support behind him. Now it feels like, whether it's his fellow blue liners or just the team in general, and of course the goaltending, it feels like he's getting better results. And even if he's not putting up a ton of points, that's what Dylan Larkin's there for. That's what the rest of the forwards are there for. So kind of feels like it's all right for him.
I think that as well, individually too, is that we see these players come in and we expect them to play a certain way, or just to know how to play in the NHL right away. Like, these guys are so young coming in. So I think as the years go on, he's obviously trying to produce and get his points and do what he's done his whole life growing up. When guys come up through the American League, or they get some time to play pro, or maybe some time to ease into the NHL, they're forced to learn how to play, or they don't get to play. Sometimes we see young guys come in who are good enough, so they're thrown in, and they got to learn on the fly. They got to learn what works in the NHL. And so sometimes I think over the years now, we might just see Seider maturing to where he's figuring out what works and what doesn't work. This works, but I can only go this far, and Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to have my defensive responsibilities. I think as guys get older, we just forget how young guys are sometimes. And some of these guys are learning in NHL games instead of in the American League or whatever. And you see guys just all of a sudden they mature and they become the great player that we expected him to be. Not that he wasn't before.
Yeah.
You also got to believe that it's easier to come in as an offensive defenseman who's just going to put up points and you don't care what he does on the defensive end, to be that all-around defenseman, the Jacob Slavins, the Victor Hedmans even. It does take a lot, to your point, like more maturity and just more games under your belt. So, this is maybe something that Buffalo Sabres want to remember when they're looking at Owen Power, who, right now doesn't look like a number 1 overall pick, but, very much looks like another Moritz Seider, like in terms of his size and the type of defenseman he's going to be. So maybe just it's going to take him another couple of years.
Yeah. And I will say, I love the physical edge that Seider plays with. And I'll never forget, they used to do the Traverse City rookie tournament where they had like 8 different NHL teams send all their rookies in the summer, hosted by the Red Wings. And the first time that Seider played there, it's obviously like a home crowd. And he was throwing some big hits and they were loving it. He was like the fan favorite that weekend. And that really kind of, set him up for success with that fan base, is coming in and be like, yeah, like you haven't seen me in North America before, but I'm willing to throw my weight around. And I think having that all around game has obviously helped him quite a bit. Sticking in the Atlantic Division, speaking of physical defensemen, the Florida Panthers got a bit of a scare. Niko Mikkola looked like he might have been hurt the other night, but he was at practice today, so that's a good sign. But, man, these Florida Panthers, like the injury bug is just rampant overall. How much more can Florida take? It's been a tough start for them. Obviously, no Barkov, no Tkachuk, so that's expected. But who on this team needs to step up just to make sure they don't fall too far behind? I don't think we're worried about the makeup of this team. We've obviously seen them win 2 Stanley Cups in a row. But there does come a point where if you fall too far back in the standings, the math is just against you. So, Mike, I'll start with you. Like, who needs to step up for these Panthers?
Well, anyone on the forward side needs to step up, Ryan, because this is a team that's lost 4 straight. And in those 4 games, they've combined for only 4 goals. So you're not going to win a whole lot when you're averaging 1 goal a game. And I know you're missing Barkov, you're missing Tkachuk. Those are 2 guys that are obviously going to drive the offense for you. But this is still a team with Brad Marchand. They got Sam Bennett. They've got Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe. Like, any one of those guys really needs to grab the offense right now and kind of take charge, because, you're right. This is the Atlantic Division. Like, if we're talking about Florida, maybe in the Pacific, you could say, okay, or even the Metro, maybe, you can go 4 games in a row without winning and you still, make your way into the playoffs. But, Detroit has come on like a juggernaut. Toronto's still, playing really good hockey. It's going to be hard for the Florida Panthers, if they're playing like this throughout November, to make the playoffs.
Devan, what's your level of concern right now with the Panthers? Is this just kind of a bump in the road? Do you worry that they could get too far behind? What is your level of concern right now?
Well, I think that's it, right? Is the worry of getting too far behind. I think that as a group and a team, I wasn't worried about them at the start with the injuries. I think they're deep enough and they've got the guys to do it. To stay competitive and stay in the mix. And that's kind of all they need to do right now. They do need those guys to step up. They need the forwards. They're going to have to fill roles where they were a great team because they had all this depth, and they had the Sam Bennett's, doing his thing, basically being a top guy, but not really looked at as a top guy. Reinhart, Verhaeghe, these guys, they're going to need to come in and be the guys, and they can be, but they're going to need to take a step up and not sit in those support roles, very, very good support roles. They're going to have to step up, and they absolutely can. They're good enough players. But I think the biggest concern for me with Florida is just it is so hard to claw back in this league because of the 3 points, because of how good teams are, and the parity is just for them and finding their game. And it is going to be a different look when you got guys who are now top power play who weren't before, or filling in top lines, playing different roles. Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of adjust to what that team identity is. But they got to adjust quickly because, like I said, for this group, they started 3-0, so that certainly helps. But they got to get it on track and just kind of keep on track and just chug along right in that wild card area. Third place in the division, that area, knowing how good they're going to be come playoff time. My only concern is just don't go on a run here where it becomes an issue that you got a big hole to climb out of. And they have the players to do that for sure. And they got, my opinion, the best goalie on the planet. So I think this is a short little blip for them because they still have a ton of good players. But they got to definitely get on the right track here.
Right on. Okay, a former Florida goaltender, Anthony Stolarz, made headlines the other night when he lashed out at his Toronto Maple Leafs teammates after they lost in overtime to the Seattle Kraken on a play where William Nylander got beat. For the record, William Nylander was asked about it today. He said it's all water under the bridge. But the quote, pretty damning. Stolarz says, overtime, you can't let someone beat you up the ice there. Gets a clear-cut breakaway. I mean, a minute left. You want to be on the ice in that situation. You got to work hard. Got to work back. And it cost us a point there. How many points are we going to leave out there? Anthony Stolarz coming strong in the media scrum. So, Devan, obviously you were an NHL goaltender. How did you feel about Stolarz's comments? And just in terms of, a goalie's place on the team, obviously the pressure is always on the goaltender. How'd you feel about what Stolarz said?
Didn't love it. I think there's so many angles to look at this from. It could be a good thing. There's personality wise, if he wants to talk and then go out there and stand on his head, that's great. If that's going to motivate him, if that's going to motivate his teammates, he's got his relationships with them. I think this is one thing. I don't think this is a strained relationship thing. I don't think it went further. I'm sure they had a quick conversation and it was like Nylander said, it's water under the bridge. I really don't think it's going to go any further than that. The reason I don't like it, a couple things. One, stop the puck. And I hate when people say that. I absolutely hate, just stop the puck. But this wasn't a backdoor tap in. I mean, this was a breakaway with back pressure. So this is a stoppable play. Not saying it's going to be stopped every time, but it's a breakaway with back pressure and he shoots the blocker side. This is not a 3-pass backdoor tap in. What's happening in front of me? This was, and this is also why I don't love, and I always tried really hard. First of all, if I was going to talk about work ethic or something different, I tried to always keep it as a team as a whole, where we know as a group that's not good enough, whether it's the 5 guys on the ice or as a group. And I tried to keep that limited as well, because again, I got a job to do and so do they, and it's hard, and I don't want to call them out unless it's very obvious. The reason I don't like right after the game is you gotta take a little breath of fresh air and cooling off period, big time. Because I think if you watch this play, I think if Stolarz takes a little cooling off period before jumping on the comments, I know when you're in there and you see something happen, you see that play happen, it looks like Nylander just doesn't care. When it happens instantly in front of you, it's like, what is he doing? How does he get beat so badly? And that's how you feel after. You're upset about the overtime loss. You're upset about that play. You're upset you got scored on, all these things. And so you think you saw something a certain way in your head. If you just take a minute, if you go watch that replay, it's one step. Like that's how fast, quick things happen. He's there, he's backing up through the neutral zone, and it's a defenseman carrying the puck, and he passes it out, and it's just a split second that he doesn't turn and he doesn't keep up with the guy, and he keeps a full head of steam going. And by the time he realizes it and turns, it's not like he gave up on him. Mm-hmm. He turned and he worked to try to chase him down. He had pressure on him, which actually helps play a breakaway when you have back pressure. So it wasn't like he just stood there and watched the guy blow by him and said, if you watch the replay, he just loses that step for a fraction of a second, and then he's playing catch up. And that's 3-on-3 overtime. That's what can happen. But when you see that play happen live, you think something differently. And that's why I'd like to see him take a little cooling off period, because I think if he rewatched the replay, he would probably feel a little bit differently. Now, when comments like this happen, I think there's more to it, and he's probably angry about something else, or the way the game went, or previous game, or whatever it was. But that's why I don't like it. I don't like calling out a play that, listen, you could have stopped that puck too. And I think Anthony Stolarz is phenomenal. I love him in net for the Leafs, but again, you stop that puck. It's a breakaway with back pressure. There's nothing, nothing stopping you from stopping that. So I'd pick your spots a little better and have a little cooling off period as well, which I'm sure he has, and they've had conversations now.
You know what? I agree with what you're saying. Context does matter, though, Devan. And this isn't a team that won the cup last year. This is a team that every spring, it's basically, we see these plays, whether it's from Nylander, whether it was from Marner, who's now at the door, or Matthews, or any of their, big time salary guys. And I think, Stolarz wasn't, I guess you could say, this is a one game in October at the beginning of the season. Who cares? They missed out on 1 point. But I think Anthony Stolarz, who, let's not forget, was a Florida Panther not that long ago. He's coming at it saying, all right, if we want to be the Florida Panthers, if we want to get to that promised land that has eluded the Leafs for, it feels like, well, my whole life, or as long as I've been alive, Ryan and I right now, who, the Leafs have never made it to a championship. Like, they need to cut this out of their game, and they need to play playoff hockey even in the second and third week of October. So, I get where Stolarz is coming, and I think that's where, you keep hearing from Craig Berube. He's preaching it every night. Like, all right, guys, I know it's October, but play as if this is June. And, that was an example of the Leafs playing like it was, the second week of October.
All right. Well, two teams that are most likely not going to be playing in June are the San Jose Sharks and the Calgary Flames, both sitting at the bottom of the league right now with just 2 points apiece. So, Mike, I'll start with you. Which team could turn it around? I'm not going to say they will be able to turn it around, but I guess which team do you have a little more faith in to maybe not be a colossal train wreck?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Ryan, because I honestly, I think both teams are going to be probably the two worst teams when all is said and done. And we're probably going to be splitting hairs whether it's going to be the Sharks or the Flames. For me, Calgary's got more of an upside this year. And I say that because they just got Jonathan Huberdeau back, who, played in, I think he got a goal in his last game. They do have Nazem Kadri. They got Dustin Wolf, who hasn't been off to a great start, but I think they just have a lot more veterans there and guys that actually can win. Will they win? I don't know. And will they even be there? Because, trade speculation is rampant around not only Kadri, but, Rasmus Anderson on the back end, and probably anyone that Calgary probably gets some value for. But if we're talking about the roster as constructed and how far they could go this year, well, Calgary almost made the playoffs last year. So I got to believe that they got it in them still.
Devan, do you have any concern at this point that teams have figured out Dustin Wolf?
I don't. I don't think you can figure a guy out that is, you can figure out a team and how to create scoring chances. But Dustin Wolf, I'm a huge fan of Dustin Wolf. This is one of those things. He's got a brand new contract. Again, I've spoke on it before. You look at what happened to Jeremy Swayman. I'm not saying that's happening there. It's just too short of a time to see. But there's things that he's coming off of this season where everything was great and he was the man and Calder talk and all this. It gets a big contract. Pressures change, things change, mindsets change, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to adjust to that. And I'm looking at Dustin Wolf as a goalie. His ability, his puck stopping ability, his athleticism, that hasn't changed. So he's going to get there. It's just when he gets there. And I think you hit everything with Calgary. That's the biggest thing, is how quickly do they turn it around before they need to blow things up and start trading guys? Because if that happens, then it's tank time, and it's not going to be pretty there. But they do have those guys that they were 1 point out last year, and those guys do know how to win throughout a season. Now, is that enough to be where they were last year? I don't know, but I do think they are going to be winning more hockey games than San Jose, and San Jose's got to figure this out, because it just can't be 60 points every year. I've been through that with Edmonton. It doesn't work for this young core to learn how to lose like that and to forget what it's like to win. And there's no magic potion as to how to do that, but you can't take too much time. It can poison the young guys. And eventually you look at Eberle, look at Hall, look at Justin Schultz, look at who else is there? Right? These young players all went to different places and are all playing great. Because they're great hockey players. But there was too much of a period of time there of losing and going out there. I say selfishly, not saying that they are selfish, but that's what happens is you don't get selfish, but you start getting in this mindset of almost survival, where you're just, you got to play for something. And if you're out of the playoffs and by the end of November, you have to find something to get yourself up and to play for. And guess what? That's points, and that's plus minus, and that's save percentage, and whatever it is. And that's just human survival thought, to get up, to play for something over a period of time. That's not good, because it just becomes part of how you learn to be okay with losing. Because if you're losing that much and you're not okay with losing, well, you're going to end up in a padded cell somewhere. So you have to find a way to survive it. And that's essentially finding a way to be okay with it. And over a long period of time, that doesn't work. That's not good. And so San Jose needs to find a way to get competitive and get competitive soon, so that we're getting to the point that it's been a while.
Fair enough. One young player who is having a lot of success early on a team that needed some wins and has gotten a couple of wins lately is Matthew Schaefer and the New York Islanders. Matthew Schaefer, the number 1 pick overall, youngest player in NHL history to start his career with a 5-game point streak. So, Mike, I put it to you. Is this the kind of start we expected from Matthew Schaefer, or has he, in fact, exceeded expectations?
Yeah. Did I expect him to be leading the Islanders in ice time, Ryan, with 22 minutes a game? No. And I don't know if that's a good thing that the Islanders are playing him that much, but they are. And Matthew Schaefer,
a hot hand.
He's looking great. So, I didn't expect this. You kept telling me this kid is different. He's basically like, I've kept hearing Connor McDavid, except he's a defenseman. And yeah, he looks like Connor McDavid carrying the puck. And, he's third on the team in shots, which again is another kind of, eye-opening statistic, because he's a defenseman. Probably shouldn't be third on your team in shots. But again, this kid is just a wonderful talent, doing things that I don't even think Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes did as rookies. So yeah, exceeding expectations for sure for me.
Yeah, I think that this is a special player. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, this is a special player.
I was just gonna say, he could be Cale Makar. Yeah.
Yeah, and not
go ahead,
somebody who's not really not that we didn't think about him. Of course, we thought about him. He's the first overall pick, but he's playing for the Islanders, and it's kind of out there east, and didn't think too much. But this could be a very, very special hockey player that you don't really have the expectations of a Connor McDavid or a top forward pick, because you think you're looking for something different. You think he's a defenseman. He's going to go out there and play defense, and he's going to be on the power play and chip in some offense. And I think I don't think anybody expected to see what we've seen from him, regardless. And then add in the fact that he's 18 years old is absolutely mind bending. But I think there were obviously high expectations, and we wanted to see how he fit in, and being a good defenseman and everything. But to see what we've seen, like you mentioned, the way he carries the puck and the way he skates and all this stuff, I don't think maybe people expected it to be as good as it is so quickly.
Yeah. And I do think too that because he missed so many games last year, the casual fan didn't really get to see Matthew Schaefer play, right? He only played 1 game and I guess a period at the World Juniors for Canada, and not coincidentally, they fell apart once he wasn't there. But I also think that he has a bit of an advantage this year, as do a lot of rookies, where that Olympic break is going to be awesome for them because, rookies can sometimes hit a wall, but now you've got 2 weeks built into the schedule where you can sit back, you can relax a little bit, get some strength and conditioning done during that time where there are no games. So for me, it's going to be very interesting to see how many points Matthew Schaefer can indeed put up, because he won't necessarily hit that rookie wall that we've seen even some of the best players sometimes hit in that springtime. So
Ryan, is he World Junior eligible?
He certainly is. Yeah, he could go to the World Juniors.
A scenario where, I know Devin's smirking already, but he's leading their
team in minutes. There's no chance he's going to World Juniors.
That's the thing. The Islanders would be like, no, we need him.
For what though? What do they need him for?
To win hockey games.
The money that they're paying him to be part of their team.
Just I get it. You're winning hockey games, but let him captain Canada to a gold medal so we don't have to watch them finish 12th again. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's what Gavin McKenna's for this year. Gavin McKenna can captain them to a gold medal. Matthew Schaefer, because there's the point too where it's like, he's on an NHL contract. He's earning it. Like, what if he got hurt again at the World Juniors and you're the Islanders? Injuries can happen anytime, but if I'm in an NHL team, I'm like, I would rather him do it on our dime in our jersey where, I'd rather him not get hurt at all. But you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a guy leading your team in ice time, and he's on this fantastic streak to begin the season. I don't take any chances. I feel like if you're the Islanders, you're like, well, we know how good you are. We don't need to see any further development against your peers.
All right. Maybe the Olympics then. Bring him on as a...
I think you got a better shot of him not getting 2 weeks off in February than him going to the World Juniors. Listen, this is just... No, sorry, Canadian fans. If this is the guy who was working his way in mid-range ice time, needed some confidence, needed to go down there, that's a different story. Let him go have some fun, go win a gold medal, all these things. When he's operating as your leading ice time guy and he's your guy, I can promise you that the New York Islanders couldn't care less about the World Junior Hockey Championships. It's not happening.
Devan, did you see last year's World Junior team? All right. We cannot go through that experience again.
They've got Dale Hunter coaching them this time. Everything will be fine.
All right.
Okay. Plus, Team USA is not going to be a juggernaut. So it'll be okay.
Probably the bigger thing, isn't it?
The competition won't be as strong from the Americans, although some other teams will be very good. Okay, so this is a very interesting one. Devan, this is just for you. This is goalies only. This one's for you, Devan. In a recent interview, Montreal's Samuel Montembault said that not only does he know what hand every player shoots with, but also the color of their stick tape. So we talked a bit beforehand about this. So as a goaltender yourself, just you can explain to our viewers, this is something that probably every NHL goalie, at least in terms of what hand a guy shoots, this is something every NHL goalie typically knows, correct? Or
especially when you get to know guys. I was saying before, I mean, there's guys that maybe come in that are new to the league, or that you have call-ups. Obviously, those guys you're not going to be sure, but you're always looking at the lineup beforehand. But the guys that you consistently play against, you certainly know what hand they shoot. And as far as tape jobs, I don't think I could tell you. And I'm not saying that he's lying by any means, because I almost guarantee you goalies are weird in a way that we remember things, and it's the gift and the curse of a goalie. We'll have things burned into our brains. And I used to be able to walk you through every goal I got scored on in the previous season, just about, because I sat there and thought about it for too long. But I'm sure there's things we remember, and it wasn't tape for me, but just the way some guys had kind of more unique setups. You look at like an OV with his tape, and you pick that up. But a lot of it was just you just knew the guys on the ice. You get used to playing against them, how they skate, how they hold the puck on their stick. Usually, if a guy had a puck on his stick for any amount of time, your brain would tell you who's got the puck. Obviously, if it's a pass out in a one-timer that quick, unless you've had a look, you wouldn't necessarily pick it up. But even just how they handle the puck, how they skate, all that stuff, it's going to register pretty fast on who has the puck. So again, it's just these things. I think as goalies, you get to a top level, there's things that start to get burned into your brain that are tough to forget.
Excellent. Okay, so in that spirit, we got a little mini quiz for you here, Devan. I got 3 players that you would have seen for years, especially in the Western Conference. We won't do the tape job because you were saying you don't pay attention to that. But let's go hands here. Starting with Braden Shen, longtime St. Louis Blue. Lefty or righty?
Braden Shen is left-handed, yes.
Braden Shen left-handed. Filip Forsberg of the Nashville Predators.
Filip Forsberg is a right-handed shot.
Correct. And to make it 3 out of 3, Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames.
Nazem Kadri is a left-handed shot.
Boom, you nailed them all. And for the record, for those playing at home, Braden Shen white tape, Filip Forsberg white tape, Nazem Kadri black tape. So there you go.
I was going to go with Shen black, but I would have had Forsberg.
Nice.
Devan, is the black tape harder to see the puck off of just because of the it doesn't matter?
I think it's purely player preference. I don't know. You might have to ask other goalies, but I think it's definitely a player preference thing.
There you go. All right. For over 75 years, the Hockey News has been the ultimate hockey fix. And now you can get 12 issues delivered straight to your door, packed with stories, stats, and a bonus gift issue. To kick things off, head over to thn.com and get in on the action. And speaking of action, it is rapid fire time. We got a fun one today. Beginning with this one, yay or nay? Brad Marchand fined $5,000 for ripping the straps out of Rasmus Dahlin's helmet in the penalty box. Yay or nay on the $5,000 fine? Mike, I'll start with you.
Yay on the fine. Like he had to be fined for that. And nay on why he did that. Like, I'm sorry. You got an issue with a player. Drop the gloves. Go old school. Fight him. But to rip apart a guy's helmet, like, it's Rasmus Dahlin. It's not just some plug out there. We're talking about having respect for the fellow superstar. So didn't like it for Brad Marchand. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But at this stage in his career, I keep thinking he's matured. No, not happening.
It felt like he had matured for a second there in Florida. But Devan, what do you say? Yay or nay on the fine?
Yay on the fine. You have to. As a league, you got to do something. I like having the uninvested takes here. I had this Stolarz, the uninvested take in the Toronto thing, and then I get your side there, and an uninvested guy who doesn't hate Brad Marchand. I think it's kind of funny. You don't, obviously it is a lack of respect thing, but that's part of, and Brad Marchand doesn't have a lack of respect for people. That's Brad Marchand. It's such a Brad Marchand thing to do, which is why it's funny. He's upset. He's upset with Dahlin. Screw Dahlin's helmet. I'm going to rip it into shreds. Like, that's just, it's like, at the end of the day, you got to find him as a league, because you got to say, hey, that's unacceptable. But at the end of the day, for the league, at the same time, they're like, well, a little bit of entertainment value there and if anybody's doing it, it's kind of funny that it's Brad Marchand. So I don't know. It's all good. They got it right. There's no suspension involved. They got to, chip a couple bucks off his paycheck and all's good.
Hey, Devan, if he did that to your goalie mask, what would your reaction
be? I'd be climbing the penalty box, but I got a paint job on my helmet. It's a little different story.
There you go. I was going to say Devan could pile drive Brad Marchand. Let's stick on the discipline or lack thereof. Clean or dirty, Tom Wilson's open ice hit on Filip Chytil. For the record, we have seen no supplementary discipline about that. But Devan, I'll start with you. What'd you think of that hit?
I don't know if this is going to be a bad take or not, but I don't think it's a bad hit. The line you walk on it is just if it's a little bit late or not. The hit is clean. He hits him hard. His arms are down. His shoulders down. He doesn't jump. He doesn't rise up. He hits him. It really looks like the chest. Obviously, concussions can happen just from impact. It doesn't have to be a hit to the head. It can just be impact. So the worst part about it is the injury, quite obviously, and his injury past with the head stuff. So that's where it gets sensitive, and you hate seeing that. You hate seeing guys who have been out a long time look like a bad concussion on the ice. Obviously, he was woozy when he's coming off, but watching the play, and Tom Wilson has his history, and he's had plenty of very dirty hits, but he's gotten his lane now. He's a very effective player. He's seems to have, but he has to walk the line a little bit. That's also part of his game. And if you watch the play, I think the only line you're walking there is the delay in the pass. And there is, I don't think it's a huge delay, but in that situation I guess the only thing you're asking is, can you lay up a little bit because the puck's off his stick? But you're asking Tom Wilson, whose job has been to, make guys have a head on a swivel for his career, and made a lot of money doing it and being successful doing it, is to telling him in a fraction of a second to make a decision to lay off a guy who has put himself in a position to be hit, and then he follows through and makes a clean hit. You hate seeing guys being hurt, but it's hard to look at that and say that was a dirty hit.
Right on. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Devin. Clean hit. Hate to see it because Chytil, like you mentioned, concussed last year and the year before. But to your point, Devin, you knew exactly if a guy was a righty or a lefty as a shot. Chytil's got to know that Tom Wilson is on the ice when he's on the ice. And, man, like you said, keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. When I watched it, I was like, that just looks like a really hard hit. And Tom Wilson is 6'4", so it's going to be a lot of impact. And yeah, you hate to see the result, but that's hockey. Last one, and Devin, I think I'm going to know your answer to this, but maybe I'll be surprised. Would you rather have, as a team, a clear-cut number one goalie and backup, or a 50-50 split?
I used to go with clear cut number one, but that's because I was that guy. And I wanted to play all the games, but I truly think now you're better off with a 1A, 1B, whether that's a direct 50-50 split, 55-45. I think getting close to that middle, if you can. Now you got to have two goalies who are capable of starting and winning hockey games for you night in, night out. And there are teams that have that, and there are teams that have close to that, but that's when you start getting to the 60-40 split a little more. But it is better to have two guys, and I think teams are looking at it that way as well. We talked about Detroit earlier in the show. I think that's a phenomenal situation, that if you get both those guys going, and they can both be playing consistently in and out, in and out, in and out, keeping their games sharp, that's a great situation. Example, Swayman Allmark in Boston, unique situation. But I think getting closer to that 60-40 split where you got two guys who can win you games is ideal.
Michael Traikos.
Everyone loves a tandem until the playoffs start, and then you want one guy carrying the mail. So I'm going to go number one goalie. As long as you pick the right one, it could lead to a Stanley Cup, as we've seen with Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to add to that too. I think you nailed it. There needs to be, because I think this is a newer thing. The way teams are looking at this is they do have to change the way they look at it for playoffs. Like, I think Boston screwed up on the we're still going to rotate. Like, no, you're not. That's stupid. And it doesn't work. And then also not overthinking when you are going to take a guy out. If you do have that 50-50 split, is like, if your guy's playing well, don't just take him out because he lost and you have another guy who's capable. It's great to have that option, but I think come playoff time, there should be a little bit more distinction of like, listen, this guy's carrying the mail, be ready to go. And if it's not going well, then that's going to be your opportunity. But it's not this, like, we're not going game to game, flipping a coin as to who's going to start come playoff.
Yeah, I don't think coaches like tandems, and probably because they're just like, it's one more thing they got to worry about or think about.
Yeah, really. Totally. Well, Detroit's happy that they have a tandem right now, and we're always happy to bring you the latest in hockey news. This has been The Big Show. I am Ryan Kennedy. That's Michael Traikos. That's Devan Dubnyk. Thanks for joining us.